Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Happy New Year and welcome to 2022. Today, you get just me to talk about the journey of life. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life, to wake up energized, excited about the day, to have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want, to be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and create harmony to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. We're beginning year 6 of the podcast. Wow, what a journey. I know I'm a lot better now than I was back then when I first started. Have to admit, I missed the original launch deadline. And so I set a new one for 4 months later, January 2017. We talk about that story in The Coach Who Helped Me back in episode 14 with David Greer. He helped me get through the weeks leading up to the launch, which were hectic with life. But I was like, I've got to make this deadline and everything else will work out. I had no idea when I started that I would ever be in the top 2% of all podcasts. That's based on the rankings at Listen Notes. I didn't even think it was possible. I also rank on the top 10 pages of Google. Everything on those pages is about me. It's amazing that I've been able to achieve that. We're also at a point now where I've literally turned down about 80 to 90% of the people that reach out to me to be a guest on the show. I never imagined that I would say that. We've published over 265 episodes on time, every time. And I've started a second podcast called The Profit Answer Man to help business owners be profitable. I have to say, none of this would be possible without 2 other people. Simeon, you've met him before, is my editor, and he's been here since day one. He makes sure that me and the guests sound amazing. Simeon is 16 now, so do the math on how old he was started. If you need an editor, check in with him. It's quailaudioteam@gmail.com. Jessa also joined us a few years later, and she does all the show notes and she helps with the social media and getting everything ready for me. So those 2 people have been most helpful along this journey and helping to keep me focused and doing the parts that I love while they do the parts that they love. So that begs the question, how do you compare to the person you were 1 year ago? What about 5 years ago? Are you better? Those are the only comparisons you should ever make. You against you. No one else matters. As we've learned, life is pretty simple. But doing simple is hard. And today, we're going to go back and visit all the original tenets I shared in episode 1 and update them a little bit with what I've learned since then. And it also serves as a reminder. It's kind of like spring training, going back to basics. And I think once every 5 years is a good time. Before we get back to that, a quick update on life. A few years ago, I got sick of corporate life. I always knew I was going to leave, but I didn't know when and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but a lot of it was up in the air. And what I was always doing was I had things in the back burner, and I would focus on them when I had time until I knew the day was ready. And then I finally pulled the ripcord and I ejected. I got tired of waiting. It's been a fun few years, and I'm having more fun than ever and making more money doing what I love. I don't regret that it took me till my 50s to figure it out. Some people do it early in life, and some of us just ignore all the signs that the universe is giving us. That was me. Looking backward, it's easy to connect all the dots, but it's hard to do that looking forward. Of course, back then, podcasts and the internet didn't exist. One thing I've learned, and that's really surprised me, is only 1 to 3% of people show up and do the work. I think the key, though, is to pick the game you enjoy and then go do that. The principle that best encompasses this is a word from Japan called ikigai. We've referred to it in quite a few episodes. It's your purpose. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and is willing to pay for. Every one of us is unique. So take the time to examine and find that bliss for you. Said another way, it's your passion with your mission and your profession along with your vocation. Too often people chase money instead of life. I know. I spent many a years doing that. As we've learned over the years, harmony is the way. The core theme is knowing your purpose and having the right mindsets. The core tenets haven't changed. It's having that harmony with time, health, relationships, money, and spirituality. Figuring out how to put them together in a way that works for you. Don't follow someone else's path. Build your own. That's what makes life unbelievable. Let's start today with a quote from Sadhguru. When you see your limited identity for what it really is, a hollow bundle of thoughts, likes, dislikes, and prejudices, you are ready to abandon it. With abandon, all the shackles fall away. That comes down to mindset. We all have programming. And the first question I always ask when I have a guest on the show is, what's your money programming? What's your childhood programming? How did it happen? Same's true in all areas of life. What we think is healthy food, our religious beliefs, how we feel about marriage. All of this starts in childhood. And part of it is we're given so much information, the brain needs to simplify life. And so it runs on programs and beliefs. The problem is many of us haven't examined our belief system. We haven't upgraded our software over time. As for me, I'm constantly doing it. And sometimes you hear the guests challenge me. I love when that happens because it means I missed something. I missed a piece of my own programming or wasn't aware of it. And they challenge me to upgrade it. I'm always amazed how kids learn to speak and live without a teacher and a book. They learn life skills by watching and mimicking. Essentially, they're programming themselves. We all chase this idea of happiness in our programming. And we're told, go to school, go to college, get a good job, and you'll be happy then. But the reality is happiness happens in the moment, not when fill in the blank. That was a major lesson for me. It took me a long time to learn that one. I was recently listening to Anthony DeMello on happiness, and he said it's letting go of attachment. Comes back to we all think we'll be happy when. It's letting go of approval and just being. It's a state of mind. So whose approval do you need? Your spouse? Your kids? Your parents? your boss, the neighbor. We chase the American dream, which is really more of a prison because it traps you. Tony Robbins always asks, which parents' love do you crave? I think we're stuck in that programming of getting their approval. Otherwise, I won't be enough. And if I'm not enough, I won't be loved. I challenge you to listen to the people around you and hear what they say. We just had an episode with Adam Kahane, number 262, where he talks about this. Too often we put our own programming and judgment onto what others are saying instead of just listening. The words slip out. They'll tell you a lot about somebody. And when you listen to yours, you may be shocked at what comes out. I think this is why kids are so good at calling out their parents. They haven't been programmed yet. So they actually hear things and they take it literally. And so when you say those words, they're taking them as they are literally. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I'll be happy when. It all comes down to our mindset. And there's plenty of great books on how to improve it. Having a growth mindset and constantly challenging your beliefs and society's beliefs is wise. I don't think they spend enough time teaching critical thinking and scientific methodology in schools. Imagine if we were constantly creating and testing hypotheses. We just take things for granted instead of truly looking at them. It's the age we're in. Everything has to be a soundbite. Everyone thinks the other half is crazy. The reality is, both sides are probably crazy. Somewhere out there is the truth. You got to keep digging for it. And we'll dig a little bit more into each topic in this episode today. Once we have our mindset focused on growth and reprogramming ourselves, we truly need to spend time on Ikigai and knowing our purpose. The reality is, as we've heard before, that it's going to keep changing over time. And hopefully you are too. What I wanted at 20 is not what I wanted at 30, 40, 50, or what I'm going to want at 60 or 70. By the way, age is a mindset. I plan to be a very young 70, still lifting weights, still strong, still living life. Not full of, oh, I have aches and pains or I can't do that. So I take steps today that will compound to give me that life out into the future. All these ideas are not in silos. They blend together. And we need to create our blend because we each have our favorite flavors. I've mentioned the book Living Forward by Michael Hyatt, and you've heard people I've taken through the program and what a great experience it is. Check out episode 160 with Marla Mogul as she shares what it meant for her. We also have episode 254 with Greg Langston, where he does something very similar with kids, helping them figure out their purpose. Having this one bit of clarity makes the rest of your life so much easier. It's not something you do in a weekend. It usually takes 3 or 4 months to come up with round one. Then every few years you update it. In the book, you can actually look at many of the components of life that we talk about and define what does it mean for you and yours. And then you take the baby steps to get you there. You know, if you get into an airplane, you know where you're going. The pilot knows how much fuel. He knows what direction he's heading. Most of the time, he's heading the wrong direction, but he's constantly course correcting. And somehow he takes off in LA and he lands you in the perfect place in New York City. And he finds that runway. But if he didn't know where he was going, you probably wouldn't get on the plane. Is that what you're doing with your life? Do you have the destination mapped? I've written my eulogy. I already know where I'm going. Now I just have to live the life that makes that eulogy come true. Once we have our thoughts in control and our purpose or target, we can now focus on one of the next areas, which is our health. Did you know that eating out increases your chance of death by 50%? It's actually a University of Iowa study. Why does this happen? Few factors I think we need to consider. The quality of food we put into our body. Imagine going to the gas station, putting diesel into a gas-powered car, and then filling the oil with syrup. How long do you think the car would run? Our bodies are a lot more resilient than that. But that is exactly what we're doing to ourselves. The worst ingredients are in everything processed and in most restaurants. The two ingredients that you've got to work on avoiding are sugar and vegetable oil. Both of them wreak absolute havoc on our bodies. And yet, that's the majority of what people consume. Just remember, diabetes and cancer are driven by sugar and carbs. You've got cancer, many of them, they give you a PET scan. The PET scan's looking for glucose activity. The cancer lights up with glucose. What if we cut the sugar from the cancer? Starve it to death. I was always taught calories in, calories out. It's a total farce. The type of calories matter, and we all react differently. So you got to find what works for you. I actually had to eat more to lose weight. Imagine that. I know this is crazy, but consider this. The peanut. Some people love them. I do. I love mine with chocolate. And some people would die of an anaphylactic shock if you gave them one. That's why you have to figure out your health. Learn about how your body reacts to carbohydrates, to fats, to proteins. For too long, we've been told fat is bad. I told you vegetable oil is bad, but bacon and butter are not bad. Natural oils like olive oil are good for you. So you've got to figure that out and how your body reacts. I use a smart scale. Not only shows my weight and tracks it, it tells me my body fat, and it has a bunch of other calculations and numbers that it shows me. I also take weekly measurements of my body. There's 5 different points that I measure. At some points I was measuring even more because I was looking to do different things. Every week I write it down, and I have data points for years. And based on that, I can see how things are going on. And you need to do that because your weight alone doesn't give you a true picture. If you're building up muscle and losing fat, then that's not the greatest gauge. We try to make things too easy, but it isn't always. I don't know how many of you know, I spent my life mostly selling in the medical space. And so I've been around and inside of hospitals and doctors' offices for decades. I have seen what has happened to healthcare. I've also seen how doctors behave and what the drivers of their behaviors are. We all look to doctors to focus on our health. The problem is doctors all focus on their specialty. And they don't always look at us holistically unless you get someone who does. When my dad was in the hospital post-cardiac surgery, I literally had to fight with the cardiologist, pulmonologist, and endocrinologist because each of them was doing something to screw up something that affected one of the other's areas. And they don't talk to each other. They barely see each other. The worst part of the whole thing is the food in the hospital is horrible for you. It sucks. Within days of coming home, everything was in harmony. We're able to cut the meds back. All of the problems he was experiencing in the hospital were no longer problems. If you don't take control of your health, nobody else will. You cannot delegate this away to someone. Right now, I'm struggling with high blood pressure. In spite of all the things I do, I'm given a pill and I'm told, take it for life. And I'm like, that is not the answer I want to hear. So I'm playing around with all kinds of things and I'm looking to figure it out and trying to figure out what is it that caused the high blood pressure so I can make a change in my life. One of the other things I've done to take charge is to actually get a microbiome test. Our intestines have more bacteria cells in them than our entire body. Those bacteria help keep us alive. They help digest food. They help keep us safe by not allowing intruders in. And what do? We kill them with bad food and antibiotics. I recommend you get your microbiome tested because there is a major link with the signals from our gut to our brain and making sure that we can think clearly. You know, you feed the kids too much sugar and they're all hyper. You eat the wrong foods and people have brain fog. They have midday, slumps of energy. It's all because we're not eating properly. The reality is we are all different. We all have different DNA, and they're finally studying the epigenetics and how our DNA react differently to the world around us. Depending on what we eat and what we do, it turns on certain genes, it turns off certain genes. The problem is the average doctor can't keep up and they have too narrow a focus. And it takes forever from information to get from the cutting edge of science to actually taking practice in your doctor's office. They're just too busy and they don't have the time. And the reality is most people come in and they want a pill. They want an instant solution instead of doing the hard work. One of the other changes that I have made is I have started eating more fermented and natural foods, getting more bone broth, reading and making sure that I am trying to eat things that are as close to natural as possible. Part of the problem is the labels we're given are not truthful. So you may see a label that says this cow has been grass-fed or it's a free-range chicken. Well, a grass-fed cow only needs to get so much grass, and then they can be finished full of corn because corn makes them grow super fat quickly. So unless it says grass finished, it doesn't matter. The free-range chicken, the government set up rules what free-range means. And literally it means there's a door and they can go outside for a little while, but they really can't. Because industrial farming has created some of the biggest chickens we've ever seen. A century ago, a broiler chicken, in other words, a chicken raised for meat, was 2.5 pounds per Bloomberg. Today, broilers go to 6.5 pounds in just 7 weeks. Their breasts are so large, they have difficulty standing. How are they going to be free range? What are they eating to get so fat so quick? What happens to us when we eat that? The human body is a machine. And like all machines, we need to move. And if we don't move, we essentially rust. I've talked about movement culture in the past. The best website I have found with programs is gmb.io. It's a great website. And they've got programs to show you what is possible. We can be so much stronger and more flexible than we are. I'm continuing to work on the flexibility, and I realize how much more I've got to go. I'm also amazed at how young we lose that flexibility. So figure it out for you and do this. I think one of the reasons that young people have so much anxiety and health issues is because they've been raised on something other than real food. The stuff that comes out of cardboard boxes and cans, I can't even read the words on the labels. I don't even know what they mean. And not to mention, the two main ingredients for most of those things are sugar and vegetable oil. We've talked about some other lifestyle choices that you can make. I go in the sauna a couple times at the gym, cold showers, red light therapy. There is so much to learn in this place. One of the experts I have found with a lot of great information is Ben Greenfield. Check out his website. He's got some great stuff for you to do there. The other thing I'm working on is learning how to breathe and creating those morning and evening routines. Wim Hof has got some great stuff on breathing. Here's a guy who literally can hold his breath for minutes on end, who can go out into the frozen cold in shorts and a t-shirt and be great at it. Again, I think we've forgotten how to be healthy and how to eat and how to live. I got to tell you, in the old days, people didn't have this problem because you had to walk, you had to work, you had to do things that were part of life. Our life of luxury is also going to be what essentially kills us. And when we lose our health, we will give up our wealth to get it back. Next up is the most precious asset we have, and the one that we give away too freely: time. We all have the same amount of hours in the day, and yet some people are so much more productive. Why? They've got systems and processes in place, and they've learned to say no. They've learned to figure out their targets and eliminate everything else. When you say no to everything, you get to say yes to more of what you want. And we've talked about this. We've had episodes on this with Joe Sanak, and Thursday is the new Friday. A big part of this is learning what's important and what isn't. Again, that goes back to the life plan. Where are you going? What's your target? What's your purpose? What your time spent on that or not. The next is learning to delegate. Let somebody else do stuff. For my business, I reverse engineered the entire business by looking at how much time I wanted to spend at work, which is part-time, how much money I wanted to make, and then how I needed to create products and services that allowed me to have all the time and the money I wanted. 2022, best income year ever coming up. I'm just amazed when I look at the numbers. One of the ways I do that is I've got checklists and systems that have allowed me to become super efficient, right? The grocery store is an Excel sheet in the order of the store. We just put on there what we want in and out. No wasted time, no getting distracted by advertising. When I was wearing suits, they were all in order, along with the shirts. White shirt, next suit, rotate the system. Grab a tie and pair of shoes. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes thinking about what am I wearing today because I can't even remember what I wore yesterday. I do much the same now. I figure out easy systems that I don't have to think. I can just take action. The podcast has got checklists. I just go down the checklist. I don't think. I just knock it out. My calendar, it's got all kinds of lists and times, and everything is done and blocked so that there's open blocks and there's activities that take place in blocks so that you get things done quickly. Every time you have to multitask, you lose 15 minutes. Do that 10 times a day, you've lost, I don't know, what is that, 2 hours, 2.5 hours? Here's the reality. 20% of what you do produces 80% of your results. So 40% of what you do creates 96% of the results. Screw the last 4%. Find another 40%. And now you're at 192%. And then enjoy your last 20% as margin in life. Imagine living at 192% productivity with another 20% margin. It's done one step at a time by spending the time to analyze and make tiny changes. I challenge you to do it. Get back your time, and you're well on your way to the life of your dreams. Take that 20% and use it to work on our next topic, which is relationships. People who can open doors for you, propel you forward, be great friends. I used to think I had to do everything myself. How stupid was I? Now I know that helping others without any expectation of return will reap rewards from me. One of the best secrets of a great relationship is to just shut up. Listen more than 80 to 90% of the time, and you'll be their best friend. We've lost the skill of listening. And the reality is, everyone wants to be heard. It's an amazing negotiation tactic as well. Just repeating back what they said in your own words. People who feel understood will love you and help you. Including your kids. How often do you listen to your kids at their level for what they want? Or your parents, or whoever it is in your life, or your spouse. This is one of the biggest regrets in life, not paying attention to relationships. I know I messed this one up too. I've messed them all up. That's how I've learned. The reality is today it's easier than ever to keep in touch. And it's simpler than ever. So do that. A word of caution. If you keep improving yourself and the people around you don't, you will need new friends because your current friends are going to pull you down. It's human nature. Going back to time, you need to carve out time, put it on your calendar to have it with your friends. In our neighborhood, the current theme is Whiskey Wednesday. We all get together on Wednesday. We share life. I don't drink whiskey. I drink wine. Doesn't matter what you drink. We're all hanging out, having fun. Do you know who your neighbors are? I know who all of mine are. If I need something, they'll lend it to me. Kind of back in the old days, when you needed eggs or sugar, you went to the neighbors, not to the store, because the store was far away and probably closed. Relationships are the keys that open up opportunities in life. Learn to use the keys and life will be divine. Remember how I said I turn down most guest requests I get? One sure way to get on the show is to have a relationship with me. Want to learn more on this topic? We've got plenty of episodes, but there's a great book on relationships. It's Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. So now on to the one that everyone is always chasing, money. This one is super simple. Spend less than you earn. Widen the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Automate the savings, right? Create a system that automatically puts the money aside and that let compounding do its job. As Albert Einstein said, it's a superpower. It's one of the amazing things in this world. And compounding works with money, health, time, everything, debt, everything compounds. The wider the gap, the faster you reach financial independence. It's really that simple. Stop wasting money on things you don't care about and only spend on what you love. And keep that amount in check and below your income. You want more? Figure out how to be more valuable without spending more time. I make more now than I ever have, and I work part-time, doing what I love. Unlock this key to providing for the world the value it wants while having fun, and you will, as Warren Buffett says, tap dance to work. The last topic is the glue that brings it all together, our connection to the universe. That's what spirituality is to me. I don't care what religious system you follow. They all tell a very similar story, and they unlock the keys to how to be part of this glorious universe we're part of. The hints are in all these religious books. They're also in other books. You've got to take the time to really dig in, to understand what's being said, and to kind of peel the onion layer after layer. Too often we live by the doctrine of man's interpretations and not the actual meaning. I still find it ironic that Christ was killed by the religious leaders of his day. How many other wars have we fought over religion? We are all one in this universe, and learning how to connect is a forgotten skill in our noisy world. Science and spirituality separated a few hundred years ago, and now they're coming back together. I find it amazing that we can take in a breath, something we can't see, and it's essential for us to live. And we don't even have to think about taking in the breath. It just happens. And then we breathe out. And then trees take it in. And they take what we breathe out and turn it back into something that we can breathe back in. We're in much more of a symbiotic relation to the universe than we imagine. All those bacteria, they keep us alive and they help us to live. And that invisible thing called air, it's amazing that it can actually blow us over and we can't even see it. And I just Googled, there are 200 billion trillion stars. I can't even imagine how many planets. There is so much we still don't know. And it's one of the biggest parts of the journey for me. But it's not to the stars. It's within. What is it, that soul that I have, that gives me the richer life? I encourage you to dig in to whatever religious beliefs you have, whatever you want to follow, and start looking at what science has to say, because they're coming back together and they're saying, hey, those religious people had it right. We just didn't understand it. Our universe is connected somehow through things we can't even see, in dimensions we probably can't even imagine. And unfortunately, I won't know the truth until I'm dead. And then I won't be able to come back and tell you, most likely. Although we did have Dave Scatcherd on and he talked about his journey. He said he walked with God and he's taught to come back in love. And I think that's what that symbiotic relationship is. If we are all connected as one, then are we behaving that way? Or are we fighting ourselves in this world? And that's something we got to figure out. Thanks for listening today. My wish for you is that 1 year from today, you are a better version of you than you are today. Do that, and all will be well. May 2022 be an unbelievable year for you. Figure out the areas that you're struggling in most, and just take baby steps in each and every one of them. And little by little, you'll find the way to the top of your mountain and the life that you were meant to live. Sure, a lot better than dying with regrets. Have a wonderful year.